Hello, and welcome to Sponge Stories, the podcast for face painters by face painters. I'm Siobhan, the face behind Theatrics Faces, and I'm on a mission to lift the lid on what it really takes to build a face painting business, the good, the messy, and everything in between. Each episode, I'll be chatting to artists, industry experts, and real working face painters about the things that we don't always talk about. Pricing struggles, burnout, confidence, boundaries, growth, and how to actually make this job work for your life. So whether you're painting your first full face or juggling a fully booked diary this year, you're in the right place. Let's get straight into today's episode. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Sponge Stories. Today I am joined by the lovely Erica Jane Walsh from Art Vision Events. Erica's been in the industry for about 20 years. So for anyone who hasn't come across you or Art Vision Events before, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got here?
Okay, so, like a lot of us, I'm a face painter. I'm a working face painter. And I think that's something that we always have to point out that, a lot of face painters who you may know from scrolling through the internet and everything are working face painters. We are out there face painting at parties. And that's what we do. That's 99% my bread and butter. I also, I do face painting for parties, types of parties, anybody from 3 to 103. If you're 104, get in touch, but and I also balloon twist, although I don't publicise that as much, but I am a balloon twister. I do henna art and body painting. It is coming, it's 20 years this October, which is really scary. So my eldest daughter was just 14 when I started face painting, and she's now 35 and she's got 2 children of her own. So that's quite scary. And yeah, I got into it because I used to be a nurse. Used to work at Adam Brooks Hospital in Cambridge, and in 2004 had a baby. And a few weeks after having said baby, who is now 22, I unfortunately suffered a stroke, which meant I wasn't well enough to go back to work. So a year down the line, occupational health said, we just don't think you're well enough to come back. And in that time, we made the decision to relocate to North Wales, which is where I'm originally from, to be near my family because of my stroke. And another year passed, and we got to 2006, and I was starting to feel really down in the dumps. I've been used to being a busy nurse. I've been, although I was kept quite busy with 4 children, but I really missed my career. Previous to going into nursing, I had actually studied art when I think it's now Anglia Polytechnic, when it used to be called Cambridge College of Arts and Technology. So that really shows you how old I am. And I was feeling down in the dumps, and my then husband said to me, I don't know where this came from. I don't know why he suggested it. This is a really weird thing. He said, out of the blue, why don't you start face painting? That would be a nice way to sort of ease yourself into doing something arty. I don't know where this came from. I still think about it now, 20 years later, where this came from. And I went, yeah, okay. So I did what most people do. I went to Hobbycraft. We didn't have Amazon and stuff then. So I bought the party pack of face paints. There was like 6 colours in there, and a brush that was like all stubby ends, rubbish. Nazaroo. Nothing wrong with Nazaroo, but this is the very basic beginner's pack. It was the brush that was rubbish. Got home, pinned my kids down, said, all right, let me practice on you. Shocking, absolutely shocking. So I'd done art at college. So I was there with a picture, trying to recreate the picture like a piece of artwork on said child's face. Like an hour later, my daughter was like, I've had enough now. Please, can we stop? And I thought, oh my God, where am I going wrong here? And I sort of jumped online, and I don't know why I'd sort of put in face painting help or advice or something. And a forum popped up called Face Painting Chats. The OGs in the face painting world will very much remember Face Painting Chat. It was before Facebook, before even before MySpace and before Instagram. And I went on there enthusiastically thinking, oh yeah, great. I'm going to meet people who are face painters. Let's see what they do. And the first picture that I saw was by an incredible face painter called Creed Ikins, who is a North Wales-based face painter. And it was out of this world, this face paint she'd done. And I remember thinking, oh God, I'm so out of my depth. so out of my depth that, scrolling through all the pictures, I realised very, very quickly. As it happened, Cree was actually literally lived about 10 minutes away from me. So we did actually make contact. And looking through all the pictures, I thought, my God, you know, I'd gone out and bought the Snazaroo 5 Minute Faces book. And I was looking at what I was seeing on there, because obviously people like Lynn Jameson were on the forum, Nick and Brian. And I was like, wow, this is this is art on faces. This is not face painting. And I could have felt quite demoralised, but something made me go and introduce myself. And within 5 minutes, I was hooked. I thought, I want to be able to do that. And I can say 20 years down the line, I still can't do that. But, I developed my own style and I just practiced and practiced and practiced. And I think a few months down the line, I was on Face Painting Chat. It was quite supportive in the sense that you could post photos up in the gallery and people would come along and actually give you constructive criticism and advice. They'd say, oh, you could improve it doing this or you could do that. It was it was a really nice community Face Painting Chat. And I made contact with a lady called Tony Scholes, who was a face painter in Warrington. And she said, there's nothing wrong with your face painting, but you could do with just a little bit of improvement on the line work. So I went over to her for like a half-day class and she showed me some line work techniques. And I came home and then I just spent hours painting my arm, practicing. Painted the kids to death to the point where they would plead with me not to paint. And if they saw me coming through the living room with a paintbrush, they would like disappear onto their bedrooms, you know. Um,
Yeah.
and I put an advert in my local post office because, we didn't have online then. I think I called myself Face Painting by Erica. I went on Vistaprint and had a couple of they used to do window blinds that you stuck up. They were like roller blinds that pulled down. And I just put Face Painting by Erica telephone number. And I got my first booking. Literally within a couple of weeks of doing that, somebody rang me up
Wow.
and booked me. So and that was it.
How did that first booking go then? Was it a birthday party booking?
No. So I was so excited. I got a phone call and it was from somebody who was having a craft fair, those ones, at a local church that was 2 minutes away from my house. And would I like to have a stall? And, it was going to be for free. And I was just so excited. I just turned up there and I didn't have I didn't really have much. I don't think I even had my own table and chair by that point. And I set up and I sat there all afternoon. And the only child I painted was the daughter of the woman on the stall next to me because she took pity on me and paid me to paint her daughter. So that was an eye opener. But at the same time, I painted a face. So I came home and I was like, I painted a face. It was a shocker, but it was also a learning curve.
And when did it start to pick up?
I think it was actually quite quickly, scarily. And to be honest with you, I was nowhere near really at the level to go out and do busy bookings. And I think the reason that I was able to develop quickly was because I got thrown out into busy bookings quite quickly. So I got asked to do a birthday party by a friend of mine, and she paid 30 quid to go and paint there for 2 hours. And I had a portfolio of 4 faces that I could paint off the top of my head. They took me about 10 minutes at a time, but I could do it. And I'll never ever forget a little boy getting in my chair and asked for Spider-Man, and I had to say to him, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to do Spider-Man. I mean, how shocking is that? It's just unbelievable. Yeah, I didn't know how to do Spider-Man. And I said, I'm so sorry, I can't do that. And thankfully, they were fine about it because they knew that I just started out and everything. But it certainly meant that from that point onwards, I spent every single day practicing every single working design I could think of because I didn't want that level of humiliation again. And I very quickly started investing in my kit. So it was October 2006 that I set up. So I think it was probably the following spring that bigger inquiries started to come in. And my first big inquiry was Llangollen International Music Festival.
Wow.
And that's a huge event. And they wanted more than one face painter. And that was when I had to start very quickly networking with other painters because I only really knew a handful of people. And funnily enough, just before that booking, because that wasn't till July, I had another inquiry for an event where I needed about 3 face painters. And Tony, the lady who trained me, she recommended that I got in touch with them. She introduced me to a wonderful lady called Jo Sykes. And to this day, we are still great friends. And we work together. And yeah, she is still 20 years later, I'm so glad that I met her because she is just amazing. I hope she watches this podcast and hears this. She was the one that taught me a lot of things about the face painting industry, like queue control and how to deal with difficult customers and all that sort of stuff. So
Mm.
I was a really wet behind the ears face painter when I started face painting, and I toughened up quite quickly working with Joe. So yeah, so
I
by the
think that
summer
would
I was
be,
busy.
I think that's the same for everyone though. When you go out, you're so excited about the actual face painting and focusing on that. Everything else just you have to just learn on the job, don't you?
Yeah,
And I think that's the
absolutely.
same for everyone. You can't spend 10 years studying face painting and queue management and what to do with your first difficult
No.
customer. You have to learn that the hard way.
And you don't think about it because you just think, oh God, I'm a
No.
face painter. And you just think, well,
Yeah.
and you go out, you think you're just going to paint beautiful faces and everyone's going to be lovely and fluffy. And nothing prepares you for that first customer who basically tears into you because you've closed your queue.
Mm,
It took me a long time not to get upset when I had customers
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Well, do you know what? So I'm coming up to my 1 year anniversary, and I've just had my first encounter with, I don't know how to say this nicely, but I suppose it's going out to face painters, isn't it? With a not particularly nice family with not particularly nice children. And I feel
Ah,
like I'm quite laid back and tolerant. So I've got 3 kids, and I know that kids can be kids. But this family, there was I don't know who really which one was the mum, but there was a couple of sort of mums sat outside the tent, but they started smoking just not far away from the tent, which straight away was a bit annoying because it was all blowing in. But I was so
yeah, it's
busy
not nice.
painting and trying to get on painting. But then all of their children came in. They were all touching my gems. They were all touching all of the hair. They were touching things underneath
Mm.
my table. And I have it set up so they'd purposely gone behind me. And at no point were the mums did they make any effort to say, no, don't go there? I mean, I had unicorn horns snapped, all sorts. And I felt a bit like an octopus. I was trying to go, okay, don't touch
God.
that. Okay, let's move away from here. I'm trying to be nice. And
Yeah.
afterwards, I did think, oh, do you know what? I should have just put my foot down and said no. But that was my first encounter of
Yeah.
what do you do when you're surrounded by, there was like 5 children in this family that were just feral. They were just fingers in everything. And normally you get a few touchy kids, don't you? And people that are trying to touch this and you sort of just like ease
Yeah.
them away and the parents will step in and say, no, 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 don't touch or whatever. This was the first time that I just felt like, oh God, I need backup here. But yeah,
You needed a
note to
Joe.
yes. Yeah. No, I said to myself afterwards, I was like, okay, you're not going to do that again. You're going to stand up for yourself and your kit again because I thought they've broken my stuff here. There we go.
Absolutely. And it took me a long time. And, it's heartbreaking when that happens. And it's
Yeah.
horrible that you feel like you're in that position where you're too worried to say something because could you imagine it? I always say to people, if a tradesman came to your house and was doing some work and you let all your children go in their tools and would go, oh, look at this hammer. Can
Mm,
you imagine it? The tradesman would be like, get out of it.
yeah.
This is our profession. This is our job. These are the tools of our trade. And there is nothing wrong with saying, excuse me, could you get your children away, please? But
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it definitely taught me. I think the first job where I had to really stand up for myself was about 2008, where it wasn't so much anyone coming in my kit. It was just the behavior in the queue where I literally had to employ school teacher mode. And
Mm,
from that point onwards, learned that I had to be what they call firm but fair when I was working.
yeah.
I was working in a very busy, I think it was a Borders bookstore in Liverpool. And I think it was one of the Harry Potter book launches. And I was non-stop. It was what we call a brushes on fire day. Free face painting madness. It's free. Everyone wants it. The queue went on into the distance. And
Yeah.
I'd stopped to take a 5-minute break. And I came back and the queue was already there. And there were 2 parents at the front of the queue. And as I turned around and started uncovering my paints, refilling, I could hear, no, 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 no. And then I could hear quite a few renditions of the F word coming from various different directions. And I thought, oh God, what's going on? I just slowly turned around and these 2 parents were having a full scale bust up in my queue. They were honestly, the language, the air was blue. It was, full on
Mm,
effing and jeffing. And the children at this point were just stood there aghast. I just thought, what's going on? And basically, they were arguing about who was first. It was
Yeah.
one was accusing the other one of pushing in and everything. And I just thought, I don't know. So I looked over at the manager, who conveniently disappeared as soon as he saw what was going on. He went and hid somewhere. I think these parents looked like you did not want to mess with them, and I was just like, oh my god, I don't know
Yeah.
what to do. So I just composed myself, took a deep breath, spun round, and said at the top of my voice, I went, right, you shut up. You shut up. She was first. She was second. I said, and if you don't stop that behaviour, if I hear one more echo of language like that, nobody's getting face painted. And it just went deadly quiet. And I was like, I
Oh
was waiting
goodness.
for a load of verbal abuse. And the
Mm.
whole queue started clapping. The parents concerned just went, and like shrunk into themselves. And I was like, my heart was absolutely pounding. I was like,
Yeah.
calm down, calm down. I've got a face paint now. Just as I turned around to start painting again, the manager appeared out of nowhere with a big, takeaway coffee for me. I think they had it in Starbucks indoors. Sorry, product placement. And he just went, thanks very much for sorting that out. And I remember inwardly thinking, it's your bookstore. You sort it
Yeah.
out. So yeah, I think that was probably the worst altercation I've ever really had to deal with. Yeah. In 20 years, it's probably not bad going.
No,
It's
and
usually just the odd
that's what I
grumbles.
thought. That's what I thought. I thought it's not. Do you know what? It wasn't the worst thing in the world. They could have done a lot worse than they did. And I think more than anything, I was just only one of their children were getting painted anyway. So I just did her as quick as I could and got them out of the booth in a way. And I just thought, like you said, they were the sort of family I didn't really want to stand up to or start an altercation with, considering I was on my own.
You just don't really want to get a load of them because it's not nice when you're face painting on a booking just to even have somebody having a go at you. You don't want
Yeah.
it.
I
What I
just
tend
thought,
to find
when you just
work,
read the queue, and I just thought,
yeah,
I just,
yeah,
let's get them done.
I'll
Let's
just
get them
paint
done, get
quickly
them
and
out.
then,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I charged, I charged them adequately. I'll put it that way.
Do you know what I tend to find works is if anybody touches my face paint, children touch my face paint and the parents don't do anything, and then they look at me as if I'm crazy. If I go, oh, could you just stop them doing that? I say, oh, these are really expensive and these paints alone cost X amount of money. So if anything happens to those, you don't mind replacing them, do you? And I tell you what, they get their children away quick then.
When you look back at the painter and business owner that you were 20 years ago, then when you first started, what do you think she'd be most surprised by if she could see what you've done in your career by now?
Gosh, I think the business owner, I don't think I've ever really seen myself as a business owner in that respect. Well, not
Mm,
then anyway. It was supposed to be temporary. It was supposed to be like a form of rehabilitation for me until I was well enough
mm,
to apply to go back into nursing, and it never happened. So I guess that the person back in 2006 would probably be absolutely flabbergasted that 20 years down the line, I'm still doing it. I
yeah.
think that more than anything, because it wasn't meant to be a full-time career and it very quickly became one. So yeah, I think that's probably the thing that would really stand out. So yeah, because I don't sit and think that I've ever done anything particularly amazing. Although I think, well, I must be doing something right because people booked me. But I think it more that, when I went into it, I didn't really take it very seriously, probably for the first 6 months. I thought this is just something nice to do, and a little bit of
Mm.
money. And then when I'm well enough to go back into nursing, I can. And then before I knew it, I had a big garden centre contract for a chain of garden centres by the following winter. And I was busy and suddenly I was having to be businesslike, and what have you. So that was a real surprise. And yeah, it's just sort of carried on. I suppose the only thing, if I had to turn the clock back to the 2006 me, I might be a bit cross with myself. I hadn't maybe taken a bit more time out. Like, for example, when I was in labour with my 16-year-old daughter, I was physically in the delivery unit. I was in between contractions. I took an inquiry for a party on my mobile. I kid you not. I literally was like, and I was literally going, and I was like, trying to hold my breath. And then when I hung up, I just like, oh God, just breathed out the contraction. I think Olivia was born about half an hour later. Anyway, the midwife confiscated my mobile. So
Good.
she came in and said, I'll have that, thank you very much, and swiped it off me. So
Oh
I
my
think
God.
if I could go back in time, it'd probably be that I just wish I could switch off a bit more, and not
Yeah.
always be sort of working. So I'll never forget that one. I got my husband as he was then, because we are, now divorced, but he was writing the details down on the piece of paper that he had in front of him. I was like, quick, write the party details down. And then she phoned me up 2 days later while I was at home, when I was at home, I had my daughter in my arms. She said, oh, I haven't had the booking form yet for that party, and just wondered if, you'd forgotten. And so I explained that I'd actually been in the middle of delivering my daughter, and I took the phone call, and she just screamed down the phone and said, oh my God, you crazy woman. Forget it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Party's not for a few weeks. Just send it when you can. I think she
Oh
thought I
my
was
God.
absolutely insane.
Yeah, I think
Probably
you're
not one of my
absolutely
clients.
insane.
Midwife won't give me my phone back until later.
Oh my
She didn't trust me.
goodness.
Oh, yeah. So probably a bit too much of a workaholic.
What do you think has changed the most dramatically in face painting since you started 20 years ago?
I think probably, well, the standard for a start.
Mm,
I see people coming along, new face painters and people who haven't been painting for very long, and they're turning out incredible stuff. There is so much incredible talent. But I think a lot of that is also because the accessibility of tutorials and what have you that's available now. Like, for example, when I first started, you had the Usborne Book of Face Painting, the Snazaroo 5 Minute Faces book, and the Creative Face Painting book, which was part written by Nick and Brian Wolf, which I bought, of course, opened it up and, well, I can't paint any of those faces, can I? So we went from one extreme to the other. You either have the stuff that was,
mm,
very basic, or the stuff that was, wow, I need to have been painting quite a while so I can even turn out that sort of stuff. So, and then you had whatever anybody really posted on Face Painting Chat, so you were always inspired by what people posted up there. But you don't have, like you go on to TikTok now and it's just never ending face painting tutorials. There are books everywhere. We've got so many conventions and jams. At the time, there was the Face and Body Art Convention in the UK. And that was pretty much it, really, unless somebody had a jam. And you didn't really get that many jams around then either. I think
mm.
just now for people, you just basically, you've only got to open your phone and it's there. And we didn't have that 20 years ago. I suppose it was probably a lot harder for the people that started out a long time ago before, you know, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And so it's just easier to access. But I think that people are coming along and they're so enthusiastic and keen very quickly. And, people are just picking up what they're seeing and turning out some incredible stuff.
Mm.
I sit and look at what I do and I think I don't feel blown away by the people that I see come into the industry now. I'm not sure that I would pay for a masterclass with me anymore when I see what other people are doing. It's just the level of talent and also just the level of what's available for people to see, definitely has
Do you think
changed.
do you think then that social media has changed what clients and even other face painters, sort of the standard that they expect from face painters now?
I think yes and no, because I think unfortunately things are changed in COVID. So I think before we went into COVID, people were still not particularly expected to have an incredible, say, Instagram or Facebook
Mm.
presence. I think TikTok didn't used to be called TikTok then. Was it called Musically or something like that? So,
I still
not
don't have
necessarily everyone.
TikTok.
Yeah, not necessarily everyone you don't go. Do you know what? It's a good choice because once you fall down the TikTok rabbit hole,
I
you can
don't
end
think
up
it'd be
watching
very good for me and my productivity.
yes, you don't get a lot done. I find myself sitting there watching videos of people cleaning their
Mm.
houses whilst I'm avoiding cleaning my own house, if you know what I mean. So
Yep, yep, yep.
that's nice. Oh, that looks great. I love the way they've done that. Not going to do that in my
Yeah.
house, but lovely to watch other
I
people
mean,
do it.
I'm bad
So I
enough with
think,
Instagram, so I just think, do you know what? I don't need another thing to lose an hour on.
I don't go there. But yeah, I do think that when we went into COVID, how especially creatives, had to get themselves out there was online because, suddenly our industry died overnight. We couldn't go out and go do bookings. We couldn't go to any events. We couldn't do anything. So a lot of people turned to creating reels, doing tutorials and what have you, and putting them up on Instagram and
Mm.
TikTok. And I suppose 6 years down the line, a lot of clients, I don't even know if a lot of clients even bother looking at websites anymore. I think when they search for people, quite often they're going to look at the Instagram page, they're going to look at
Mm.
TikTok and the Facebook page to see what you do because that represents more in real time what you do, if that makes any sense. And I think that's probably the client expectation is that clients want to see what you're doing in real time. They don't want to see the stuff on your website that you could have done 5 years ago. And I also think clients want to feel more connected to people in a way, because if you're doing reels on Instagram, especially if you're doing ones where you talk and you're in the reel, clients feel like they know you.
Mm.
And I think that might make somebody think, I'd like to book her, or him. Um, it creates that connection. But also I think when they see people do tutorials as well, and not necessarily from a client's point of view, but obviously other face painters, you're more likely to want to connect with somebody that you see as offering value for your follow, if that makes any sense. If somebody's turning out lots and lots of pictures of beautiful work and tutorials and what have you, it's a great person to follow because you can be inspired by them.
So your work has been described as having a very sort of like distinctive and very delicate wispy style. Michelle was on a couple of weeks ago and she was massively fangirling. She won't mind me saying this either, but she massively was
Bless her.
fangirling over you.
Was that
She
Michelle Sky?
yeah, she loves your
Bless her
style. She was
heart.
like, "Oh," saying like, "Oh, it's so beautiful and wispy, and I wish I could do like that," and all of this. Was that something that you consciously developed, or do you feel like it emerged more naturally over time? You were saying that you don't paint like the Wolf Brothers. You don't paint that style. You've got your own sort of distinctive. It's all very wispy, beautiful line work, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's funny actually that you mentioned Nick and Brian, because I'm lucky enough to be able to call Nick a very good friend, you know.
Mm.
But I remember when I first started out years and years ago, I remember I got the creative face painting book. And when I'd done art A level and art at college, I'd always been more of a fine artist, so I liked to draw and I liked to do really fine details. For my A level 12-hour test piece, I did a giant, it was like about a 5 foot tall pen and ink drawing of a carnation, right down to the little blobs of water on it. So I always like detail, which probably makes me not a very good body painter. I always say to myself, I've got to go bolder for the body painting. But I remember when I suddenly realised that the face painting books I bought were not cutting it. I bought the creative face painting book, and I loved the way Nick and Brian did their beautiful swirly eye masks and eye designs. And I was
Mm.
like, I like that. And then I tried to paint them and I was like, oh God, I just couldn't seem to do those lovely, neat, exact, perfect sort of curls in with beautiful teardrops and everything. I was like, I can't do that. I was a bit annoyed with myself. So I just thought, I'll just do it my own way. And my own way was I just thought, well, I can't do neat. So let's do not neat. Let's go the other way. Let's just go for a bit more free flowy. And I guess that's where it came from. And then
Mm.
I suppose over the years, it's become like muscle memory for me. I do use very fine liners, but I just find I can just knock out, sounds awful, but just knock out a quick swirly eye design a lot quicker. And I just love doing lots and lots and lots of ribbony, swirly curls. Somebody once said to me, she said, you don't paint, you scribble. And I thought, well, I'll take that. It is scribbling. When you used to sit at school and you had a bit of paper and a pen, you'd go, that's what I do. So yeah, I realised that no, and to this day, I also will never do the cool dinosaurs and monsters like Nick does, but that's
Mm.
fine. I do them my way. They're going to have loads of swirls in them and what have you.
So you've been painting for 2 decades now. How do you keep yourself creatively fulfilled and creatively interested, would you say?
I thought you were going to say interesting. I was going to say I'm quite interesting. Oh, it's a hard one, isn't it?
No,
Again,
how do you
I'm
say
not very
interested in what you're
interested.
doing?
It's a really strange one because the amount of times that I've said in my head, I'm probably going to give up face painting. It's time for a career change. Honestly, I say it, and a lot like lately, especially since recent health issues.
Mm.
And I find I can't do it because I suppose the reality is I just love doing it. What I tend to do is if we all get a bit of painter's block occasionally,
Mm.
where you suddenly find you go out on a booking and everything you paint just looks, it's almost like the brushes are made of rubber and they bend back on
Yeah.
themselves. And you're like, oh my God, I can't paint anymore. And you come home and you're like, God, and everything you try to paint looks rubbish in your head. That's when I step back a little bit. So I just say to myself, I just need to take a bit of time out. I'm lucky that I work with my husband now. So he is also, I met him through body painting. So we actually met
Mm.
for the first time at Bath Body Art in 2018. And then finally got together in 2019 at the Living Art Show. And we've been married since 2023. And he was a body painter first. And then I basically um, encouraged him to get into face painting. And so when I'm taking a bit of time out from face painting, he goes and does my bookings.
Mm.
But he's great because he also does beautiful flowers and what have you as well. And so it's great. But I suppose I just take a step back. So I might like not look at anything face painting related online and what have you, and I'll immerse myself in something else if that makes any sense. Just to take a bit of time out, because it's like any job. Sometimes it can get on top of you, and sometimes
Mm.
you can feel like you're not being really productive and you're not getting a lot of job satisfaction. And so the what I do is like, yeah, just take some time out from it, even if it's in my head. I just sort of step back a little bit and go, stop being so hard on yourself. But also, sometimes I'll just sit and research new inspiration, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
And then something might happen. Something will be, I don't know, like I might see an event come up or something, and I think, oh wow, that looks good. Yeah, I feel inspired. And then yeah, but it's really strange because I'm always thinking in my head of things that I want to paint. It's just that
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, I don't really get the time because when especially this time of the year, we're out working every single weekend. So I do tend to find that it sometimes numbs the creativity a little bit when you're out doing children's parties all weekend, every weekend. Like everybody wants the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
so that it's one
I
thing's
mean,
quieting down a bit.
I'm finding it difficult to sort of find the right opportunity to try out a new design. So when I go to a birthday party, I suppose in theory that's a bit more, I don't know. I was going to say when I go to a birthday party, I know that I've got to get set amount of children painted. So I don't want to
Yeah,
start faffing around on a design that I might fudge halfway through. So I just go through my tried and tested, get them out, get them looking good because I know that they're consistently good. And then even when I do sort of like, I did a really busy event, where was it? A couple of weeks ago. And when it's paper face, the plan is to get through as many people as you can because you don't want there
yeah,
to be an enormous
absolutely.
queue. And again, I don't
No,
want to be faffing around on something that I've not done before. And
because
then
if it
even
goes
when
wrong,
it's
then you
yeah, and then even when I was at a paid event, a great event a couple of weeks ago, a village fete, but they'd paid me to be there for 3 hours. So I was thinking, oh great. But then again, the queue's so big, I just want to churn out what I know is going to look good. And I'm just
yeah.
like, when's a good opportunity for me to try a new design? Because I recently did the International Face Painting School,
Uh-huh.
their little summit where
Yeah.
you do like an intensive, I think it was like 5 days of quite a lot of new designs and everything. So I tried loads of new designs, but I've not been brave enough to try them out on the job yet because I've never really found an opportunity where I don't feel like there's a lot of pressure.
I know
So I don't,
exactly what
yeah.
you mean. Yeah.
So
So
how do you
the
introduce something new?
well, what I tend to do is if there's some stuff that I want to try out, rather than
Mm.
attempting it on a job, because I always say to people that do classes with me, a busy booking is not the time to try out new stuff. Because as you say, if you fluff it, it can throw you off whack for the whole booking. Then you're like, okay, I've ruined it now. However, sometimes you will get one of those bookings that's quiet where I don't know, that it's 2 hours and you've only got 12 children booked. So sometimes that's a time I do try out new stuff, and I'll tell the child if they ask me for
Mm.
something, I'll say, do you know what? There's a design I want to try. And I haven't had a go at it yet. This is a new design. So do you mind if I have a go on you? Do you mind if this makes it sound like I'm treating them like a practice board, doesn't it? But what I mean is I say, do you mind if I have a go at this design as you've asked for it? And they'll go, oh yeah, yeah, cool. If they've asked me for something a bit out there. But as a
Mm.
general rule of thumb, what I tend to do is I'm sat in my breakfast bar now in my kitchen, which acts as a general dumping ground for most things and not the purpose for which it was built. There we are. But sometimes, you know how it is. I'm just
Yeah.
moving the big pile of washing out of the way so you can't see that.
Yeah.
yeah, my husband built this, and I said it'll be lovely for my daughter. She can bake here. Yeah, it's just ended up covered in laundry piles and what have you.
Yep.
But what I sometimes do is I've got the practice boards, and I'll have like maybe one or two just set on one side of there, and like a mini kit of paints. And
Mm.
sometimes I'll just, if the mood takes me, if I've got a bit of time and I'm feeling like it, I'll go, I'm going to try out this design now, and I'll just sit at the breakfast bar and I'll just practice it. It's only if I feel confident painting it on the practice board that I might then go and attempt it on a design on a
Mm.
booking. But I mean, I am very much a sort of a I do have my safe zone when I'm out working. Like you say, I think to myself, I've got this head of stuff that I normally do on a day-to-day basis, my working faces, and I
Yeah.
find it a lot easier to just bust those out because it means you can paint quickly and you know that you're still going to give a high impact face. It does mean that I then look back at my pictures and think, oh yeah, same old, same old. I really must tweak those designs a little
Yes.
bit. And then I do. Because otherwise I just feel like I just take painting the same old stuff and it does get a bit boring.
Yeah. That's what I think that's what I need to do, because I need to sit and practice some of the new designs because I can't paint my own face. I've tried a few times now and I just think, do you know what? I'd rather paint on my arm or my leg. My hand gets in the way. And then whenever I'm looking, it's always mirrored. And I don't know why, but I cannot wrap
Oh,
my head around the fact that it's mirrored when I'm
yeah.
moving. And like you
And
said, my children just
yeah.
disappear now. As soon as they see me like coming towards them with a paintbrush, there's no chance. No chance. I
Oh, yeah.
managed
Children
to
are face painters. They hate being painted. They're the
absolutely detest
worst.
it now. I mean, bless them. I was supposed to have some of my friends' children model some new designs for me for my to go on my website, and for we had to reschedule basically, and I really wanted them. And bless them, I think my children felt so sorry for me because I was like, oh no, like that they were like, you can paint us, mummy, if you like. And I was like, so basically guilt tripped them,
Oh,
which is a
yeah,
new
yeah. And
technique for me. Normally it's bribery, but now it's guilt
it's
tripping.
awful, isn't it, when you've got the sympathy vote from your kids and they actually just
I
agree to let
know.
you paint them because they feel
I
sorry
know.
for you. That's
And I could have been
tragic.
the bigger person. I could have said no, but I went on and painted them anyway. I just made the most of it.
I- I've got no hope. My 16-year-old daughter, she used to be my willing model. She is the one that's all over my website, all over my Instagram. And
Mm,
then there just came this point when she suddenly went, no, no,
no
no,
more.
no. And I'm there like, come on, I just please. And she's like, no, no,
Yeah.
and no, and no, and no. And you're going to go and put it on your Instagram. And I don't want you to put a bit, right. Okay, fine. Okay, fine.
Yeah,
And then
fine.
she literally, I said to her, right, okay, I'm going to have to put a shout out then on Facebook, aren't I, for willing models? And she's like, yes. I haven't got round to doing that. When, I must admit, when I had to do I think I did a class for Juliet, fan club,
Mm,
Juliet Eve. Was it about a year? Must have been about, oh no, I think it was last summer. And my daughter flat out said, I'm not modeling. I'm not modeling. I ended up having to get her friend to come and model for me.
yeah.
Her friends
Yeah.
did it. She wouldn't.
Yeah.
Ah,
I get that.
it's
But
yeah,
yeah,
so
I think I need to
it's hard
practice
work.
my designs over and over on my arm, because once you've got those steps memorized, I think that's half
Yeah.
the battle, isn't it? It's remembering what to do next. So once you've got that muscle memory memorized for a new design, then it will come a lot more easily on the job. So I think you're right. If I just
Well,
smash 10 out in a row, then it'd be easier to do maybe out there.
you're always going to make it your own design anyway. I
Yeah.
never copy other people's work. So if I've ever seen anything that inspires me, I basically make it my design because that's what you want people to do with your own stuff. We're there to
Yeah.
inspire. Make it yours. Add your own touch to it. Um, One thing I do, I mean, saying I've got very ample thighs, so I can get away with it. But one thing I have done in the past is I have sat there on the sofa and I've painted a face shape on my thigh, and I've actually painted a design because it's proper skin as opposed to the
Yeah.
practice boards, which are all plasticky and weird.
Yeah.
As I said, I used to do that when I lived alone. Kids were in bed. So I could just get away with it of an evening, sit there and paint my
Yeah.
thigh. So I have got a lot of thigh, so
Well,
it
I did
worked
that
for
when I
everyone.
was practicing unicorn horns because I wanted to make sure that I got
Right.
my unicorn horns down so it didn't look like I was painting anything inappropriate or anything that looked like,
Colour choice is always important.
color choices, because you go from one inappropriate to something that looks like the poo emoji, basically. So I
Yeah.
was practicing these unicorn horns over and over and over again, all up and down my thighs, because that's what you do. And the delivery man rang the doorbell, and I didn't even think. I just went trundle into the door, and he just looked at me as if, "What are you doing?" And I'm there covered in very questionable unicorn horns. They didn't look a lot like unicorn horns at that point either. But yeah, don't paint unicorn horns in pink because you're in for a world
Yeah,
of
no,
trouble.
no, no, no.
Any color but pink.
Absolutely not. Not unless you want them to look like something. I have the
Yeah.
amount of times that I have scrolled through social media and seen a unicorn and gone, oh no.
Stay away from pink. Any other color.
Yeah, yellow is usually a good one with a nice sprinkle of gold glitter over the top. That usually works.
I found out when I was researching and deep diving on you that your business was previously known as Kaleidoscope Faces before you became Art
Ah.
Vision Events. So, what prompted the rebrand?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so when I first started face painting, I actually called myself Kaleidoscope Face Painting. And the really weird thing is that another face painter popped up the same time as me. Now, she doesn't face paint now, but there's a lady called Jennifer Parker who lives in Hertfordshire. The really weird thing is, it was almost like we had parallel lives. And we even at one point looked a little bit similar. It was really scary. We both worked in mental health. I think for the same health trust as well. So I'd also worked with the Cambridge and Peterborough Mental Health Trust. And she called herself Kaleidoscope Face Painting, and she kind of just got in there before me. So I agreed to change my name to Kaleidoscope Faces. And we both used to have disclaimers on our website saying, we're not the same people, but, here's a link to that person if you want to go there. And it really worked for me for years, Kaleidoscope Faces. It was, it did what it said on the tin. But I think also that the thing is, because I was a face painter exclusively, really, until at least 2009, that was all I did. Kaleidoscope Faces also worked. But then in 2009, I tried my hand at body painting. And then in 2010, when I had Olivia, because she never slept, and she was one of those babies who, if I put her down, she cried. She only slept in my arms. Or I got one of these chairs from Babies R Us. God, I used to love Babies R Us. And it had like a vibrate button on it, and it was the only way she'd go to sleep. But she'd still only sleep for about an hour minimum, and then she'd wake up. And I thought, I'm going to have to do something productive with the time that I'm clearly never going to sleep now for the next year or something. So overnight, while I was doing night feeds, in between the night feeds, I taught myself to balloon model on YouTube videos. So my husband would come down in the morning and the floor would be covered in like balloons. His baby would be asleep in the middle of them in her bouncy chair.
Oh my
And
God.
maybe that's since why we split up. But he was great because by the time she was about 6 months old, I was quite a proficient balloon modeler. So hooray, and thanks very much, Olivia, for not sleeping. But it meant I was adding a new sort of string to my bow. So suddenly I wasn't just kaleidoscoping balloons as well. So then I think I'd started doing henna. Now, I'll never rate myself as an outstanding henna artist. But I do take henna bookings and I do some nice henna. And so it started to get a bit sort of like, oh, my business name sort of says I'm just a face painter, if that makes any sense. So I'd just been toying with the idea of the name change anyway. But in the meantime, when I relocated down to the Cotswolds from North Wales in 2018, my web host turned around and said to me, she said, I'm not going to do web hosting anymore. So unfortunately, you'll have to find somebody else to host your website. So that seemed like a good time to think about a rebrand. So, and that's when I decided on Art Vision, just because I'm an artist with a vision. And just included the name events because Art Vision was taken already, the domain. So that's why I put events in there. But it meant I could incorporate all the other stuff that I do as well, make me sound like more of an all-rounder.
Was it a bit
So yeah,
was
that's
it a
where it
bit
came from.
frightening, sort of changing the name of an established business after, like, because you've built a reputation and like a client base under the old business name? Was it a bit
Yeah,
worrying changing the name?
I think less so. I think because I was relocating, it was less so because it
Yeah.
meant because I was moving 4 hours away from where I originally lived, I'd lost all of my clients anyway, because they were obviously all up in North Wales. So I was
Mm,
starting with a new client base. So in a way, it felt like the right time, if that makes any sense, because I
yeah.
was having to start fresh and start from the bottom up and rebuild my client base in the Cotswolds and Oxfordshire. But yeah, if I'd been up in North Wales, I'd have been like, everyone knows me as Kaleidoscope Faces. I don't really want to do that. But I probably found a new web host and had to have added a little tagline saying plus balloons and henna and everything else, body painting.
Yeah. So you do face painting, body painting, henna, balloons, anything else?
No, that's about it really. On we do
That's it.
glitter
It's
tattoos,
quite
but
a
I
lot.
mean, who doesn't?
So how do
Who doesn't?
you decide whether a new service is genuinely worth learning and adding to the business then?
Well, I sort of look around at what people are asking for, if you see what I mean. So I do gauge a lot of it based on what clients are asking for when they email
Mm,
me. But also I do take it from what I see advertised from other people. I mean, I haven't introduced any new services to my business for eons. It's the same old, same old. But I suppose what made me sort of look at different avenues. I introduced the glitter tattoos quite early on, actually. It was about 2007. Most people weren't doing glitter tattoos then, and they seemed like a really good add on. And they were always really popular where I was based. So I'd always get loads of bookings for face painting, glitter tattoos. And then obviously balloons, are always a really good, it's always good to be able to do balloons because means that you can have a face painting balloon modeling package as well. And I used to do themed parties back in, oh gosh, 2008. So back when High School Musical and Hannah Montana were all the rage. And then we started doing frozen parties. So I made contact with a company in Liverpool called Dreamworld Princesses who did all the princesses. So they used to come along and be my princesses. And that I was so booked that I couldn't keep on top of it, for all these themed parties. And I think in about 2011, I remember sitting there and looking at the endless inquiries that were coming in for all these parties and realizing that I wasn't just going out and face painting anymore. I was going out and I was preparing the venue and I was putting seat covers on and, making the
mm,
table decorations and doing everything. And the face painting was coming right down the bottom of the pile. And that didn't sit comfortably with me because I've always said I am first and foremost always a face painter. That came first and I always will be. And so I killed these parties on the spot. I just took them all off the website I think the next inquiry I got, I said, so, no, sorry, I'm not doing them anymore. And
mm,
I did the ones that were already booked in. I just didn't take any more because it was just, it was also exhausting,
yeah.
going and doing all the prep. And I just thought, no,
It's
that's not
turning
me.
into
I just want to face
something
paint.
bigger as well, like
Yeah,
snowballing
and
into a completely different business.
absolutely. And it could have done if I'd been that way inclined. But at the time, my youngest was very young. And unfortunately, my marriage broke up in 2012, which also led me to scale things back a bit with the parties. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it on my own. I
Mm,
didn't want that. I didn't want I've never wanted to be a massive business. I've never wanted to take over the world or be anything like that. I've always said I'm always happy if I'm face painting, I'm doing what I love. I'm face painting at the parties and events that I like doing. And as long as my own diary is full for bookings for me personally, I'm happy. And so,
yeah.
yes, I scaled all that back. And especially when I moved down here, I stopped doing any form of subcontracting. So the only time I'll ask people to cover a booking for me is if it's my own booking and I'm
Mm,
just not well enough to do it or whatever. Because subcontracting is also the biggest headache ever. I like a quiet life now. Now that I'm in my
yeah.
50s, and like I said, I had cancer last year, and it's quite a quieter life.
Yeah. So something I found quite interesting on your website was the way that you position your adult face painting work as face art rather than face painting. Was that a conscious decision to market it differently for
Yeah.
adults than children?
Yeah, I think it's because when you're marketing yourself for adult events, you want to market it as a premium service. So you want to
Mm,
be offering a bespoke, you know, a wow factor service. So you don't want them to think that what they're going to get is, you know, Miss Rabbit from Peppa Pig coming along who can only paint tigers and nothing else. And the reason I use that reference is because on bookings for years, for some obscure reason, children used to think I was Miss Rabbit because apparently I sounded like her a little bit. And even my kids at the time thought I sounded like Miss Rabbit. I'm going back quite a few years ago.
Oh dear, that's brilliant.
My kids thought it was hilarious. They used to play me Peppa Pig videos of anything that Miss Rabbit ever did. Because Miss Rabbit has about 150 jobs. She runs the fire service, the library. And they're like, you sound just like Miss Rabbit. And then one little girl actually said on a booking, Mummy, is that Miss Rabbit? And I was like, I never wanted to I don't want it to, I want people to know that they were booking, a premium bespoke service. So
Mm,
labeling it as space art means that people expect art on their face. Not
mm.
that children don't get art on their face, but I think when people are booking for a children's party, they expect face painting. Yeah, it's the more child-friendly term. And
Mm.
I just think that face art it's just a more adult and slightly more upscale way of wording it to get the adult bookings in. You know, if it's a busy
Especially
booking, it might
because
not always be artistic.
yeah. Well, I always think your swirls and they just look effortless. It's something I'm currently practicing to make it. I mean, at the moment, mine just look like squiggles when I try and do that. But you keep practicing, it will come, it will come. But yeah, the eye art that you do, the pretty flowers and the effortless swirls, they are art and they are grown up. It's not face painting
Yeah,
because it just appeals. It's like a festival eye. Yeah, I think labeling it face art is really clever because it just gives it that chic edge rather than the face painting, which you straight away think tiger or
yeah, definitely.
unicorn.
And I do think that you do have to market differently to your adult bookings as opposed to your younger market, your parties and what have you, because you do want your adult, you want your adult clients to think they're going to get some wow factor, festival
Mm,
style looks. And that you're not going to turn up and say, well, the only thing I can do is paint a tiger or a butterfly, you know. So that's, and I've always loved doing eye designs, and I was eye designs was something that I got into doing was when I was back in North Wales. I was very inspired by a lady called Sophia Leddell Taylor, and she was an outstanding face artist, very, very talented. I think she now just does
mm,
like community art where she is now. But she used to do these incredible eye designs and called them eye designs. And it was the first time I'd ever heard that expression used, eye designs. And so I'd gone and covered a couple of jobs for her. And so felt like I had to be offering the same kind of style. I mean, I was never on a level with her, but it prompted me to practice that sort of eye design look and I'm going back to like 2007, 2008, where
mm,
you didn't really hear that referred to, whereas now you hear it everywhere. Adult eye designs, it's generally expected that if you're face painting, you can do those. So that's how I sort of got into those and decided to perfect it. And obviously, I do love florals and I love swirls, so they'll always be the thing that I'm happiest and most comfortable painting. And it is a bit like muscle memory, so I can kind of
mm.
just I could do with my eyes closed, done, move on. So yeah, they're definitely the thing that I am happiest and most in my comfort zone painting.
What has been the biggest business mistake you've made, and what do you think it taught you?
Well, biggest business mistake, I've had quite a few actually. Oh dear, I'm just trying to think what was the biggest business mistake. I'm just trying to pinpoint. Well, I mean, there've only been small ones. There's never been anything that
Mm,
I've done where I've gone, oh my gosh, well, that's absolutely wrecked my business, or flipping heck, I'll never live that one down. I suppose the biggest business mistake that I ever really made probably was killing the themed party side of things because actually it could have been a big business. It could have been something. And I could have been just sat there now training up other people to go out and do the jobs for
mm,
me. So in a sense of, succeeding and being successful, that was probably the
mm,
worst thing I ever did because the party side of things was called occasions parties and it was just so bad. I mean, we did a lot of high profile parties as well, based where I was. I had the Cheshire Market, so there's a lot you know, footballers and what have you. And I suppose when I look back, it was a big mistake because we could have been really big. And in fact, one of the girls who came and worked for me as a freelancer actually went and set her own party company up in Liverpool, which is now massive. And I mean,
Mm.
massive. She has venues and everything, but she's also got the drive to do it. And I just didn't have that drive. You know, for me, face painting is where it's at, and I just needed to scale it back down. So I could have been probably doing really well for myself now in terms of, financially, and I could have been sitting back. But then would I have been happy? Would
Yeah,
I
you
have been
have to
happy
weigh
not
up
being a face
that
painter?
mental health, the
Yeah,
physical health, the toll it takes on your social life and everything else. And
absolutely.
if you've got
Yeah,
the drive and that's what you want to do, that's absolutely fine. But if your heart's not in it, it's like an energy transfer, isn't it? The energy's got to come from somewhere, and it will come
absolutely.
at a
Yeah. And
detriment to your
my
well-being,
heart stopped
essentially.
being in it, unfortunately. And
Mm.
so, yeah, so this is why I will probably be face painting right up until the day of my funeral
Oh,
to make money. Also, because I just love what I do.
what are what are the red flags that that now make you think this booking is going to be more trouble than it's worth?
Oh, yeah, we do have a few of those, don't we? So I've got a page on Facebook that I set up last year. It's
Mm.
different to the face painting WTF group. It's called Face Painters Rampage.
Yes.
So, it's a safe place, if you wanna go and have a grumble. Oh, it's usually oh gosh. So when somebody books me, it's by email. I mean, people don't call you anymore, do they? It's all by email. They email and I say, to place the booking, here is the booking form, please pay the deposit. And then when I've received the deposit or the booking fee, I will confirm your balance is due, a week before the booking, and I will be in touch 1 week before the booking to touch base. However, once you've
Mm.
paid this booking fee, I will email you to confirm that your booking is all there and in my diary. So the red flags for me are usually the ones that message me 2 seconds after they've sent the booking fee over saying, hello, I've sent my booking fee. You haven't been in touch yet to confirm receipt. Right. Oh, right. Okay. Checks phone. Oh, yes, yes. I've just received it. Right. Okay. So I email back. Yeah. Thank you very much. Lovely. All in the diary. Lovely. Looking forward to seeing you on the day. I'll be in touch in a week's time. A couple of days later. Hello. I'm just checking that everything's all right for the booking. You know the ones, don't you? Because I'm probably that person. If the tables are turned, I will be that person. They will be like, no, I'm not coming to your party. You can bog off. Um, so then you get, and then a week later, hello, I'm a little bit anxious because I haven't heard from you. I'm just checking
Mm.
everything's all right for my booking. And I'm thinking, what do you want me to do? Am I supposed to check in with you every day? I did have a booking like this quite recently. Honestly, it was hilarious.
Mm.
And I'm like, nothing to worry about. I've said I'll be in
Yeah.
touch a week before the booking. So then you get, I don't know, 2 weeks before the booking. Hello, I'm really concerned because I haven't heard a thing from you and the bookings. And at this point, I'm like, and you're just ready to sort of lose
Mm.
your everything and just say, do you know what? I'll give you a booking fee.
Yeah.
And so, yes, you have to go back again to your client, and then I've literally done that. And I've then touched base with them a week before the booking. And they still messaged me the day before the booking saying, I'm really, I'm concerned. Are you coming tomorrow? I've
Mm.
even had them then ring me when I've been en route to the booking to check if I'm still turning up. And so it's, and then I've turned up to the booking, and they have been one of those parents, if you know what I mean, where you feel like you can't
Mhm.
do anything right, and you kind of wish that you'd just called it on the 50th time that they'd asked me if everything
Mm.
was all right with the booking. So yeah, that's usually the red flags. And I suppose, unfortunately, it's probably due to the fact that we're in an industry now. So when the day and age we're in now, there are a lot of scammers around. And I do hear
Mm.
people being scammed by
Yeah, I've
so-called
seen a
face
few
painters that actually
recently
don't
that's
exist. Yeah.
heartbreaking.
So I do understand people being really anxious and wanting to know that, when they paid that money, you are definitely going to turn up. But it
Mm.
does mean that, it is a bit of a red flag because a client behaving like that is usually going to be very testy on the day and they usually don't disappoint.
Mm.
So it has happened.
Are you most proud of that perhaps wouldn't appear on like an awards list or an Instagram grid? What's something that you're really, really proud of?
What, in face painting?
Yeah.
I am really proud of the fact that I managed to keep my business going through cancer treatment and coming out the other side of it, but I've been able to get back into working as a face painter again. I'm
Mm.
not quite the person that I was beforehand. Unfortunately, I do struggle. I won't lie, with my bookings now, I get very tired. I do have to get my husband to cover more for me, and I tend to take more of the shorter bookings as a general rule. I couldn't do a whole day of back-to-back parties anymore. But I'm proud of my own resilience in the fact that instead of giving it all up, which I did toy with the idea of doing, and when I got diagnosed, that I actually thought, no way. And it kind of kept me going because I was still having chemotherapy when I decided to still have the jam that I normally have in the Cotswolds. Now,
Mm,
I think a lot of people thought I would probably cancel it when I got diagnosed. I had it in February last year, but actually I thought, no, it's going to keep me focused preparing for this jam. And I decided to
mm,
turn it into a fundraiser for breast cancer now. And we had a fantastic turnout. We raised £500 for breast cancer now. It nearly killed me. It nearly killed me. But I was really proud of myself that I was able to do it. When I look at things like that, this is where I'm so grateful to be part of this community because you know, dealing with a breast cancer diagnosis and the chemo and all the treatment that came with it would have felt very, very lonely had I not had
mm.
what felt like a very large virtual support network. And there were a lot of people who were really kind to me and supportive during it. So yeah, I felt like I wanted to give back a bit by still having my jam, but then I did have to not have it this year because I was just too tired. But yeah, I was proud of myself because I think it's really easy to just give up. But I thought, I'm not going to let cancer take away the one thing that I really love, which
Mm.
is face painting. So I'm proud of myself that I am still, by the skin of my teeth, still here right now and doing it. So yeah, definitely that.
So, if you could sit down with Erica at her very first paid face painting job, then what would you tell her?
What the heck are you doing here? You can't even face paint Spider-Man. Go home and
Go
practice
home.
more. Do not go out on bookings until you can paint a few more faces, you strange woman. Yeah, I think I'd have told myself off and said I was definitely not ready for going out and doing bookings. And I always say to
Mm,
people, make sure you are ready to go out and do bookings. Make sure that you've at least got a bare basic setup and a professional looking kit and at least a small repertoire of faces. Even if you do have to copy them out of books, don't do a
mm.
me and turn up to your first ever booking with your face paints in, I swear, honestly, an ice cream tub, and your terms and conditions written on a rudimentally sort of whiteboardy type thing
Yeah.
and set up and then tell the kids they could only have a tiger or a butterfly. Bearing in mind, it was a friend, and she did know that I was just starting out, and she basically got me along to help me. And I just wanted to say to anybody out there, yes, I did have my PLI in place, and I had already registered. So look when anyone comes at me. But yeah, I think it frightened me because when I came home from that booking, I was like, God,
Mm,
I need to be much more prepared. And it was a few months before I went back out and did more
mm.
bookings. I made sure that I did at least look like I knew what I was doing.
So, then to wrap up the episode, let's do a little quick fire round, which
Oh,
is
okay.
very quickly becoming my favourite part because everyone keeps recommending things and I go away and order them straight away.
Oh,
So
fair enough.
everyone's like, this is my favorite brush. And I'm like, adding that to my basket. So, okay. So try not to overthink the answers. We start
Okay.
off with an easy one, which is tea or coffee,
Coffee,
one strokes or line work,
line work.
children's party or grown up event,
I'm going to say grown up events, but actually that's a hard one for me because I like doing both. Yeah.
full face or eye design.
Oh, I designs all day long.
Would you rather go to a painty jam or quiet practice at home?
Oh, painty jam. Can't beat a jam.
Do you have a perfectly organized kit or is it creative chaos?
Creative chaos.
What's one product that you always seem to buy, even though you probably already own enough of them?
Glitter. It's got glitter.
What is the design request that makes you think I could paint this in my sleep?
Can I have a flowery eye design, please?
And what's the one request that makes you think, no, not that one?
Monkeys. Ah, I hate painting monkeys.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Yeah.
If you could only keep one brush from your entire kit, which one would it be?
It would have to be my Series 315 Rosemary and Co. size 2 liner brush.
So specific. And I'm going to add that to my basket.
Yeah.
This is what I do. The minute someone says a brush, I'm like, getting that. What is the
Yeah,
strangest
definitely.
place that you have ever painted someone?
I've got to think about this a bit because I've had some really odd ones over the years
What we like.
and I'm just trying to nail it down. Yeah. yeah, I'm just going to have to nail it down to at least one. Probably, God, there's been loads. I don't know which one to choose. I had some really bizarre, some really bizarre bookings and yeah, and requests and what have you, and like bespoke paint. I suppose probably the strangest place that I've ever painted anybody has been, well, a booking, and not so much strange, but just like awkward, really. Was one where I'd um was booked to paint at an event, and the only place that they had to put me to paint was on a tiny little stage. It was at a party, but it was really elevated. So it was like I was on a podium. Like I felt like I should have been one of those cage dancers. It was a few years ago. It's when I lived in North Wales. And the children, it was a children's party, but the parents had to help them up to get to me. And it was cramped and it was dark and I couldn't really see what I was doing. And yeah, that was definitely a weird one because wow, did I feel on show or what? Although it was cramped and dark, I was like, yeah. But I was lucky that I didn't get the request that another face painter got, which was to face paint at the top of Mall Vamai for a fireworks event. Mall Vamai is a big mountain in fluid, and you have got to
Wow.
be fit to hike up the side of that. She had to hike up it to paint there for a
Mm,
fireworks event I think it was a Jubilee event or something years
mm,
ago. But yeah, I didn't get anything quite as bizarre as that. But
my
this was
goodness.
probably not so much bizarre, but probably the most uncomfortable place that I've been put
Mm.
to paint where I have not felt comfortable. So I don't like being on show. I like to be tucked away in a corner.
What's the funniest thing that a child has ever said to you in the chair?
The funniest thing that a child has ever said to me in the chair, well, probably, "Are you Miss Rabbit?"
Good. Did you say yes or no?
I should have said yes, but I think the
Just,
mum interjected quickly and said, "Oh, the lady's not. It's not Miss Rabbit. She does sound like her, doesn't she?" I should have said yes. This is my other job along with all the others.
I
But
had
yeah,
a I had a child the other day ask me if, when I was in my gazebo, asked me if that was my house. They said, "Did you live here? Is this your house?"
that's
And I said,
brilliant.
"Yes, yes, it is." And then we had a long
It
chat
must.
about
Do
where
you
I
know what?
sleep, and
Oh, do you know what? To be in the minds of children is just incredible, isn't it? I think I did
I
have
thought,
one child did ask me if I was very, very old. And this was years ago when I'd only just started face painting. I was only 30, yeah, 34. So I was a bit taken back. But when you're about 5 or 6, anybody over the age of 15 seems ancient anyway.
yeah,
So
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
So yeah,
Anybody,
Miss
I
Rabbit's
just thought
probably,
you're
yeah.
over the hill. As soon as you hit 30, you are old. That's what I used to think.
I love the fact that a child thought a gazebo. To a small child, that
Yeah.
probably seemed like the best Wendy house ever.
Yeah, I know. And I thought, yes, this is where I live, in the middle of a field in a gazebo, waiting for people to walk past
In a
so I can paint their
gazebo.
faces.
I'm just waiting for people to walk past so I can face paint them. Yeah, brilliant.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And finally, after 20 years in the industry, are you still capable of walking past a new face paint product at a jam without buying it?
No,
Still
I'm a
get sucked in.
sucker. And Amanda Careford will tell you this from Face Painting Hub. Every time they keep posting up, oh, I always love the new one strokes. And I'm like, oh, I have to have those to add to my massive collection of one strokes that
Yes.
I don't even do one stroke painting. I only use them as bases, but it's just like, oh, new paints, gotta have that. I mean,
Gotta have
I
it.
won. I was lucky enough to win an entire range of superstar glitter balms at Cap Expo. So I won two. I came first in one face paint comp and second in the other. And so I now have more glitter balms than I know what to do with. But you just know that if I see a new one that's come out next time I go to a jam, I will buy it
Oh
because it's that
dear.
thing,
Well,
isn't it? We just have to do it.
yeah, no, I know. I know. I think it's because being able to physically see the stock laid out. Because when I
Yeah,
approached the magic box stand and I was just like, I need to touch it all. It's so nice
I
shopping
know.
physically instead of just online.
And I've got no reason to even have no business to even be buying lots and lots of one strokes because I'm lucky enough to have quite a few of Leanne's beautiful one stroke
Mm,
palettes that she kindly sent me. And yet I still see more and go, I go to set my kit up sometimes. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to put it all. I'm not even going to use it all. But, it's that I have to have it. And like you say, Magic Box is terrible. You just look at it all stretched out and it's like,
yeah.
it almost sparkles. You can hear that
Yes.
music that
Yeah.
sort of more pages for you.
Oh my goodness.
Gotta buy it.
Well, Erica, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, and thank you so much for telling us all of your experiences and stories. And it's been really, really lovely chatting to you.
Oh, no worries. It's been so nice to chat to you. Thanks ever so much for giving me a chance to waffle off. If anybody watches this, they're going to lose interest after half an hour, I swear. But you know what? To anybody watching this, if you got this far, thank you. Thank you.
Well, the good thing is the people that do listen to this are just I like to think they're just like me. I just love to chat face paint stuff. We're all as mad as each other, aren't we? That's it for today's episode of Sponge Stories. If you found this helpful or it made you think, oh, thank God it's not just me, I'd love for you to share it with another face painter who needs to hear it. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. There's plenty more real talk and a bit more waffle coming your way. And if you've got a story, a question, or you'd even like to come on the podcast, you can email me at hello@spongecommunity.co.uk or send us a DM over on Instagram, Sponge Stories.